Welcome back to Entrepreneur Unlimited. I'm your host, Tani Heipel, and today we're diving into a topic that a lot of people shy away from: money. It's one of those things we don't talk about enough, but it's the backbone of every business. We hear about the success stories, those big profits, but how often do we hear the truth about the bottom line? Did you know that in Canada, most small business owners barely break even in their first 3 years of business? It's really common for profits to be minimal, if there are any at all. So this episode is for those of you who are struggling or just starting and wondering, when does the money part actually start? Or how do I start my business with little to no capital? Today I'm going to be real about what it's like to manage money in business, from payroll to taxes and sky-high expenses, and how you can keep the ship afloat. Today actually marks 2 years since I bought my coffee shop. If that is not the perfect segue into what I want to chat about first, being crowdfunding and private lenders. So I want you for a moment to forget the banks. When you're starting out, people and private lenders might be where it's at for you. Crowdfunding can be a great way to rally support from your community and network, and often private lenders are more willing to take a chance on you than a traditional bank. That doesn't mean that there won't be contracts or you won't pay interest, but it also doesn't mean that you will. When I first started, banks weren't interested in funding my venture because I was already self-employed and I wasn't making that much money. Even though my business income was supplemented by my teaching income, it was contract, so it was not giving lenders any real confidence that I could pay them back. But I learned that people were confident in my abilities, and I found support from the most unexpected places. I will admit, though, that I really had to swallow my pride and put myself out there, which meant the risk of being told no and feeling super judged, which I don't love, but I did it anyway. And even though I heard some no's, I also ended up getting the funds to buy my business. So my advice is to take a chance and ask people that you think, and honestly, even some who you might not think would have some lending capabilities, and you might be pleasantly surprised at who steps up to help you. When I found my funding, the joy I felt is indescribable. It was almost like winning the lottery because I wasn't even sure how it would happen or if it would happen. I believed that it could, but I couldn't see it because I had never had that much money at once. So it was a moment of, where the hell is this going to come from? And who would be generous enough to trust me with it? And that really reinforced the feeling that I can do anything I put my mind and energy into because I manifested the shit out of that. I really believe I did. Now I had this money and I bumped it up to cover startup costs. And then I fell into a rabbit hole of expenses and wondering how the hell I'm going to pay back what I owe. That is a lot of weight to carry. Because I want to be real with you, when you're starting out, costs are and will be higher than you ever imagined. Seriously, I'm talking about everything from rent to equipment maintenance to supplies to software and unexpected expenses like a broken fridge. You have to be prepared to spend and spend a lot, especially in your first year. Remember that unless you're buying a turnkey business with a business plan parallel to your own, you don't have previous numbers and projections to accurately draw from. You can guess, but until you have some years under your belt, you can't know for sure. I had some numbers to go by, but what I wanted to do with my business and what had been done previously were not the same. I took my business so far beyond what anything in that space used to be that I couldn't really draw any accurate information. I had to guess, and guessing is pretty expensive. So here's where having a good bookkeeper and accountant is critical. Let me tell you, I learned this the hard way. In my first year, I went through 2 accountants who completely messed up my books and my finances, and both of them were referrals from people that I know and trust. So trust me when I say that means nothing. You know, I don't even know what advice to give you other than learn as much as you can before you pass things on to someone else. At least then you'll have more of a scope of what to ask. Maybe you'll ask better questions. I thought I had a pretty good handle on accounting, and I'm a sole proprietor, so you would think things are pretty straightforward, but I still had blind spots, and that set me back because I didn't know what to ask. If you're using QuickBooks, they have pretty robust training resources, but I'd say no matter what accounting service you're going to use, just make sure you tap into the resources they have available. I ended up owing thousands of dollars in taxes that I really wasn't prepared for, and it was a nightmare, but also a wake-up call at how important it is to get the right professionals on your side right away. So don't skimp on this. Your peace of mind is worth it. And even if you do owe money, you'll feel good about why you owe the money. That was my big thing. I was fine owing taxes and having to pay taxes, but I just wanted to understand why and maybe how I could lessen that dollar figure the next year. So get a good bookkeeper and accountant ASAP, even if they can help you set everything up so that you can just plug in what you need to get that financial foundation sorted right away. Like other business owners, I could easily fool you into thinking that I'm super financially successful by saying something like, in my first business, I maxed out at around $30K a year, sometimes more or less depending on the contracts. And now I'm raking in over 6 figures and growing. This year I'm up 17%. Sounds great, right? Well, in my first business, I was the only employee. I hired contractors. I wrote off a ton of expenses because my business was in my apartment and I was selling my skills. Now I have 4 permanent employees. I fill a shop with food and drinks, lots of coffee, heat, AC, water, hydro. I pay subscription services like mats and cloths, point of sale fees, service fees, and on and on and on. So my net profit is not what you'd think. And even though, yes, I am up 17% over last year, which is wonderful, I'm still not financially free. And we'll talk about what financially free means some other time. But your favorite mentors are going to say, look at me making 6 figures or 7 figures. And the asterisk information like, but here's a list of all my expenses will be hidden or purposefully left out. Then there's payroll and labor costs, right? So a huge chunk of any business budget is going to be labor. Depending on your industry, as a general rule, payroll should be about 20 to 30% of your revenue. That might sound high, but people really are the heart of your business, and paying them fairly is critical. And of course, depending on how much you are working in your business, will make that percentage go up or down. And here's the thing. Labor costs aren't just about wages, right? You also have monthly payroll taxes, benefits, WSIB, and all those hidden costs that come with hiring. And trust me, payroll adds up faster than you think, especially when you have multiple employees, and taxes are no joke. And if you miss a monthly payment, even one on your payroll taxes, you have to factor in interest. So I have mine automatically set up, but my first accountant didn't tell me about the 15th of the month rule for payroll taxes. And what you don't know, you don't know. So I learned that pretty quick. But remember, in my first job, I didn't have employees. So a lot of stuff I learned the hard way. That's why I'm here to help you. My advice is call the relevant entities that apply to your business and ask what the process is for your business and you specifically, because it differs industry to industry. Google is a really good start, but it's better to hear it straight from the organization just in case there's something that you miss when you're doing a search engine search. This goes for registering your business name, trademarking, setting up a separate CRA account, payroll account, all of that fun stuff. Save yourself the headache and go straight to the source to make sure it's done right the first time. And again, just because a business makes 6 figures doesn't mean the owner is walking away with 6 figures, not even close. In my business, I'm making money, my bills are paid, my employees are paid, but there's no extra money just sitting around begging for me to take these luxurious vacations, right? I wish. 2 years in, I'm still reinvesting everything back into my business. When you run a business, there's always something to pay for. Marketing, training employees, retraining and certificate updates, repairs, and the list goes on. So yes, you can have a 6-figure business, but that doesn't mean you're profiting 6 figures. And I think that's where a lot of people are mistaken when they see these business owners and entrepreneurs talking about how, I make 6 figures. Yes, 6 figures are being made, but it doesn't mean that they're walking away with those profits. And this is where you really need to become a master of creative banking. You make it work even when things don't go to plan. If a fridge breaks or you need to throw money into a new advertising campaign, you figure it out. Running a business really means being flexible and ready to adjust your plan at any moment. Maybe you're sick and you need time off for whatever reason, so your employees have to cover, which means your payroll is higher that month. Or you want to launch a new menu, or get your liquor license, or buy a projector so you can show movies, which includes a licensing fee. Can you tell this is a bit personal? Well, I can only speak to what I know, but I'm telling you that unexpected business expenses are the only thing that I can ever truly expect. It's not glamorous, but it's the reality. And if you're in this for the long haul, you get good at balancing everything, the highs, the lows, and the unexpected. So I talked about private lenders, but there are some other ways that you can increase your cash flow, cutting back when needed, whether that be on payroll hours or supplies. Remember that it's okay to be sold out of things sometimes. You don't always have to be stocked all the way up. Okay, if you run out of something, it's fine. Just re-up on your next order when it makes sense. Also, look for other passive income opportunities like subscriptions or online shopping or paid events, donations, things like that. Looking at financing options for equipment or supplies is really helpful, and a lot of retailers offer financing so that you don't have to incur that cost right up front. From what I've seen, there are a lot of 0% options out there, if not low interest rates. And going to the bank is still an option, right? They'll offer things like low interest business operating lines or small business loans. Some of those will be a little higher interest, but you have to look into them and choose what makes sense for you. And then there's also alternative money lenders that don't require a credit check, but do have higher fees and shorter terms of lending. So meaning that you might have to pay back the sum borrowed either daily, weekly, or monthly, and in a shorter time frame. So if you need money quickly, but you can pay it back pretty quickly, then that might be a good option for you. And there's something to be said about determination and grit and not giving up so that you can see the return on not just your monetary investment, but your time and energy. For me, that's huge. It has to be for something. And it's not all about money, right? As long as my bills are paid and I can see that profits are coming, then it's worth it for me. And when you're passionate about what you do, then it doesn't seem so bad when all of these unexpected expenses come up and you're like, how am I going to afford XYZ this month? But I am a firm believer that if you want it to work, you will figure it out. And there will always be someone or something to help you out of the mud. Unlike our tax in the swamp of sadness, if you know, you know. Sad face. So there are some options for you. And before we wrap up, I just want to leave you with a thought that you'll hear a lot of entrepreneurs bragging about their revenue and their profits and all the money they're supposedly making. But when you're learning from someone, make sure that you look for the receipts. Ask the tough questions. How much are they reinvesting? What's actually left after expenses and payroll and taxes? There's also a big difference between being an owner and being an operator. Owners can step back and let the business run without them. But if you're an operator, like many small business owners, you'll find yourself working the majority of the shifts, doing the hands-on work to keep things moving. So it's not all money, money, money. There's a grind behind the scenes that doesn't always get talked about. I know this was a really short and sweet episode. I could go on and on about the money hurdles that I face in my business, but my business is 2 years in. I'm still learning. And as I continue to learn and grow, I will continue to share my experiences with you. But I also hope you know that if you have any questions, you can reach out to me at Tanya Unlimited on Instagram or send me an email to info@tanyheipel.com. Thanks again for tuning into this episode of Entrepreneur Unlimited. If you're finding these episodes helpful, make sure to subscribe and share it with someone who's on the same entrepreneurial journey. See you next time when we'll dive into more of the realities of running your own business. Stay tuned and stay connected.